If you were active on YouTube 11 years ago, there's a good chance that you may have a vague understanding of this movie, even more so if you were active politically on YouTube, as this video became relatively famous at the time. I mean, sure, it wasn't a Nyan Cat, but it was definitely still famous. A lot of people did end up seeing it. Even I remember vaguely watching this under like an upload that I can't find that was titled something like, "Watch this video to know the truth," or some like vague nonsense like that. But even back then, I didn't even watch the whole thing. I watched like the beginning and then kind of forgot about it. But now it's technically gotten to the point where it's nostalgia. So I decided to dust off this YouTube video and see what all the fuss was about. The film was the brainchild of Tad Lumpkin and Harold Uhl. It's a 30-minute animation that was released in 2 parts on January 5th, 2011. I think because the YouTube upload limit was still under 30 minutes. As for the cast, there's only 2 people credited: DC Douglas, who plays a character named Mel, and a prominent voice actor named Jess Harnell, who plays everybody else. That's pretty much all the behind the scenes stuff that I am aware of, so let's just go over the plot now. In a nice suburban area, there's a man named Pyle who's living the best life with his dog Dream. However, the bank forecloses on him and repos all this stuff, including taking away Dream. Oh, I see what they did there. Pyle mopes about this and basically wonders, how could this have happened? And all of a sudden, a childhood friend of his named Hartman pulls up in a DeLorean and proceeds to do just that, deciding to explain the ins and outs of the US banking system. Most prominently, the idea of fractional reserve banking.
The bank only has so much money in the vault to lend out to people, such as you. So you see, by the time he got to you, Pyle, his bank was out of money.
But he gave me lots of money and charged me a lot of interest.
Yes, that's the only way banks make money, by making debt loans. Debt equals money, Pyle. Remember that. Debt equals money. The more loans they make, the more money they make.
So far so good, right? However, Pyle is really confused. If the bank didn't have any money to give him, how did he get money? Hartman then directs his attention to the Federal Reserve, levying criticisms to them with varying degrees of accuracy.
Because no one is allowed inside the Fed. Not you, not me, no American citizen.
Congress, not the Supreme Court, not the Supreme Court, not the Supreme Court, not the Justice Department, not the CIA.
ATI, FBI, ATF, ATNT, not even G-O-D. Government. The Fed is a private bank owned by private stockholders. Do not let the name Federal fool you. This place is about as federal as Federal Express. The Fed don't give the banks money. The Fed loans the bank's money.
But I don't get it. What's so wrong about the Fed printing money?
Because it's unconstitutional, Pyle. They print the money, then they loan it to the government, then they charge the government interest, then the government taxes you to pay for it. Wake up, Pyle!
And this is where the film starts to take a very interesting turn when we are introduced to the film's villains, the
Red Shields,
a group of malicious bankers who want to get rid of hard money and control the globe. And Hartman shows them doing just that to England after the Battle of Waterloo, where the
Red Shields
bought both sides of the war, and after Britain won, they tricked them into thinking that they lost and started selling British stock to put them into debt. In the real world, after Nathan
Red Shield
was told that Britain won, he told the government, and after the information was made public, Nathan predicted that British bonds would bounce due to the fact that there was no more war and that peace was coming. That sounds like pretty sound business to me. Hartman then shows that the
Red Shields
had come to America and were now influencing Alexander Hamilton to create a national bank, and Aaron Burr killed him because he didn't like the banks. All that stuff about the New York gubernatorial race, that's nonsense. His historical revisionism continues as he begins to talk about Andrew Jackson. Hartman greatly implies that the assassination attempt was orchestrated by the
Red Shields
due to the fact that he opposed the banks. You know, completely ignoring all the stuff about Richard Lawrence being mentally ill and thinking that he was the King of England. Even going so far as to say,
I killed the bank. And those were his last words.
while he did say that was his greatest accomplishment, Those weren't his final words. But wait, hold on. Weren't we talking about the Federal Reserve? Well, back to that topic, we begin to talk about the creation of the Federal Reserve. While of course mentioning people like Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan, he of course says the
Red Shields.
were the ones who orchestrated the whole thing, despite the fact that the
Red Shields.
had absolutely zero hand in the creation of the Federal Reserve in real life. He even goes so far as to say that the
Red Shields.
Russians who orchestrated the 16th Amendment, the one that introduced a progressive income tax. You know, a thing that a rich person would oppose, no? But of course, they save the best thing for last. For around a minute 30, they talk about
Last president to stand up to the Fed.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Beginning the section, they play a portion of Kennedy's Secret Society speech.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
Implying again that he's talking about the
Red Shields.
Would you believe me if I told you that they took this clip incredibly out of context? That this speech has a completely different meaning that you can readily find if you just look it up and read the first sentence in the speech. You know, ignore the part where he says Karl Marx by name, and he's clearly talking about communism in the Soviet Union. You know, because we were in the middle of a Cold War. He was talking about the Rothschilds again. But you might say, that can't be their only evidence of him standing up to the Fed. Of course not. They're actually referring to Executive Order 1110, saying that it was a plan that JFK had made to curb the power of the Federal Reserve by allowing the US Treasury to print money instead of them. And that's the reason why he
Went to Dallas and never returned.
Now you might say, you can't really argue against that. Watch me. What did this executive order actually do? It halted the production of silver certificates, you know, money backed by silver, because the United States wanted to use silver for manufacturing. It gave the US Treasury the power to only produce a limited amount of paper money to transition away from silver-backed currency. And it actually gave the Federal Reserve more power because it allowed them to print more bills, allowing them to make $1 and $2 bills, bills that they didn't make before, as long as those bills were not backed by silver. I guess you can understand why they saved this 1 minute for the end of their movie, because yeah, that's basically the end. There's a crappy 300 parody because Sparta remixes were a thing at the time, and roll credits. As you can see, the film is basically some sort of like fringe right-wing conspiracy tirade that was popular in the early 2010s. You know, that's when Alex Jones and the Tea Party started becoming like mainstream. And I mean, these guys aren't exactly hidden about it either. These guys openly promoted Alex Jones and Ron Paul and like a bunch of other like libertarian and paleoconservative think tanks. You know, they were the heroes that were trying to stop the Rothschilds. What this animation was to the Tea Party is basically what Take Back Our Future would be for the alt-right. In fact, it is so comparable that my theory that these kinds of movements basically evolved into the alt-right and QAnon were proven 100% when I started looking into this and seeing that one of the prominent channels that uploaded at the time has now rebranded into a QAnon channel. If this is the American dream, then I don't want to go to sleep. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to notify when a future video when it comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, check out my articles on the Independent Political Report, or consider supporting me on Patreon.